Good evening, everyone at Tushita, and good evening, everyone online. So we can start the session. First, I will invite you to take 3 deep breaths to, arrive here at Tushita and arrive in front of your screen online. So we can take 3 deep breaths, and every time we inhale, our mind refreshes, and every time we exhale, we relax both body and mind. So, welcome everyone. Tonight we will talk about the wisdom of emptiness. But before we do so, we'll try to generate a good motivation for this session. And we'll also do a 5 minutes calm abiding meditation. Calm abiding, also called single pointed concentration or shamatha in Sanskrit. So before we do that, we try to generate a good motivation of bodhicitta, Mahayana motivation, which basically means we are not doing this session for ourselves alone. We can try to think the purpose of my life is to help others. The purpose of my life is to benefit sentient beings. So for this reason, I'm doing this session tonight. You can try to contemplate how, since beginningless time, all sentient beings, including myself, have been trapped in what we call samsara in Sanskrit, cyclic existence, constantly taking rebirth again and again without any control because of the power of our karmas and afflictions. Try to generate a sense of compassion for yourself and all sentient beings. May I and all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. The causes being karma and afflictions, mental perturbations, delusions. I myself am taking responsibility to free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. But how can I do that? I'm also controlled by my afflictions, constantly engaging in non-virtuous actions, accumulating negative karmas. So I must, if I want to help myself and others, I must first liberate myself. I must put an end to these afflictions, to these karmas, to all obscurations, to liberation and all obscurations to full awakening. Only by becoming fully awakened, become a fully enlightened Buddha, then I will be able to guide sentient beings unmistakably. Try to generate this beautiful mind of bodhicitta. May I become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So with this motivation in mind, we will engage in 5 minutes of single-pointed concentration, meditation. So we have new people here at Tushita, so I'll quickly remind you of the instructions, how to meditate on shamatha, calm abiding. The first instruction is to look at your body posture. Ideally, we are sitting on the floor. In the posture, the 7 points posture of a Buddha Vairochana. So the best would be to be in full lotus, the legs crossed in full lotus posture. That might be a bit difficult. So you could sit in a half lotus or simply with your legs crossed, or even Burmese style with one leg in front of the other. Make sure you're comfortable and not pushing yourself. The second thing is for your hands. The best would be if they are in the meditative mudra, so that's the right hand on top of the left, and the two thumbs are slightly touching. Two thumbs are touching. Yes. With the right hand on top of the left. Yes. And this rests at your lap. And make sure there is enough, space between your body and your arms. And actually, the most important thing is for your back to be straight, for your spine to be aligned, for your body to be upright. But at the same time, you want to be flexible, relaxed, like your body can still move from left to right, even though your back is straight. You can imagine that there is like a string, pulling your body upright, but still your body is flexible. You're able to do like this. Your neck is aligned with the spine. You can slightly tilt your head forward, but not too much. If you're sitting on the chair, make sure your back is not leaning towards the support of the chair, but also don't lean forward, Make sure you're straight. This might surprise you, but we don't meditate with the eyes completely closed. We leave them slightly opened. And they are just gazing, in front of you, 1 or 2 meters, 45 degrees cast down. But we are actually not paying attention to what our eyes are apprehending. It is the mental consciousness that meditates. A tip of the ancient masters is to place your tongue towards your upper palate, behind your upper teeth, and this helps to reduce the production of saliva. So this is the first instruction, the posture. The most important thing is for your back to be straight. The second instruction is, what are we meditating on? What is the object of meditation? What is our focal point? If you are familiar with shamatha meditation, you can simply bring to mind the object you are familiar with. If not, what I would recommend is that you visualize a tiny, very small dot of white light between your nose and your upper lip. So in this area. Very small, maybe 1 or 2 millimeters in diameter. And place all your attention there on this very small, tiny dot of white light between your nose and your upper lip, and try to maintain all your focus there for the entire duration of the meditation, so which is 5 minutes. The third instruction is that during meditation, our minds get distracted. And it is important to know how mostly the mind gets distracted. There are 2 common errors. The first one is called excitement. Your mind will be distracted with thoughts, thinking about the past or the future, thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner tonight after the session, things like that. The second type of distraction is called lethargy or laxity or dullness, like the mind sinking or kind of falling asleep. These are the 2 common errors of meditation. And the fourth and last instruction is the actual antidotes to these 2 errors. The first one is called introspection, meaning throughout the meditation, a small part of your mind should be checking, introspecting. Am I meditating? Am I concentrated on my focal point? And when I notice that I'm not concentrated on my object anymore, with mindfulness, which is the second antidote, I bring back my attention onto my object. And I make sure I try to stay on that object as long as possible. This is mindfulness. So we'll try this for about 5 minutes. gently come out of the meditation. And now that we are hopefully a little bit more concentrated, more focused, we'll quickly recite some prayers before listening to the teachings of the Buddha. So we can visualize in the space in front of us Buddha Shakyamuni, so the historical Buddha. For those who are here at Tushita, we have a statue here, the big one in the middle there, under the Dalai Lama. So you can try to visualize, it's also the same that is on the screen in the middle. And you can visualize all the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas around him. You can visualize His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all your other lamas in front of him. And you can visualize seated around you are all the other sentient beings, starting with your mother of this life on your left and your father of this life on your right. And surrounding you are all sentient beings, and you are leading them into these prayers. So we can read the first one one time in English, the second one also one time in English, and then the third one is the Tibetan equivalent of the second paragraph. So that one we can recite 2 times in Tibetan. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soke Jonam La Jonsho Badu Dagne Kyabso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Tsoknam Ki Jola Penchir Sangye Jubara Isho Sangye Chodan Soke Jonam La Jonsho Badu Dagne Kyabso Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Tsoknam Ki Jola Penchir Sangye Jubara Isho. And then today, since we will be talking about the wisdom of emptiness, we'll also recite the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the Prajna Paramita. So we'll chant this 3 times. Teyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha Teyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha Teyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. So the last few weeks we have explored what the mind is and how it can be transformed, how the mind, has an incredible potential for change. We have explored what are the 3 scopes, the 3 different motivations of Buddhist practitioners. We have seen the 12 links of dependent arising, and last week we explored how to meditate on bodhicitta, the awakening mind. So today we'll talk a little bit about what actually frees us, what liberates us from all our problems, which is the wisdom of emptiness, which is the actual direct antidote to our misconceptions. So as usual, please feel free to interrupt me, especially if you don't understand what I'm saying or if you have questions directly related to what I'm saying. I think on Zoom you have the possibility to unmute yourself, and of course here at Tushita, just speak out. So the wisdom of emptiness is a fascinating topic, which is of utmost importance because it is by meditating on the wisdom of ultimate reality that we can become free from our problems. We can end our suffering. The wisdom of emptiness allows us to eradicate all of our afflictive and cognitive obscurations. So in other words, the wisdom of emptiness, with the wisdom of emptiness, we can eliminate the obscurations to our own liberation and the obscurations to our full awakening, enlightenment. We can become Buddhas. So on the basis of bodhicitta, which we talked about last week, on that basis, the wisdom directly realizing emptiness allows us to achieve that state of a Buddha. The wisdom of emptiness allows us to completely unveil our full potential, to achieve the state of omniscience in order to be of the best benefit to sentient beings. It's also a very complicated subject, and actually I'm not at all qualified to talk about this subject, even though I have the fortune to have received quite a lot of teachings from qualified masters, but that is not enough, because in order to realize emptiness directly, one must first enter one of the paths. So one must have either renunciation, uncontrived renunciation, or uncontrived bodhicitta, so either the wish to be liberated from samsara as like a main mind, or the wish to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings as a main mind, like uncontrived, spontaneous. So on top of that, just to, realize bodhicitta or renunciation in order to enter one of the paths, first we must have a lot of familiarization with those motivations, but we also need to have achieved shamatha, calm abiding, perfect concentration. And actually, in order to achieve shamatha, we must gather so many different conditions that are required in order to sit in retreat, in the shamatha retreat for several months. And one of those conditions is actually to have a perfect morality, a perfect sense of ethics. So even if one has perfect morality, and even if one has achieved calm abiding and has either uncontrived renunciation or bodhicitta, one must also, intellectually understand what emptiness is very precisely and how to meditate on it. So for that, we also need a lot of merit, a lot of, we need to accumulate a lot of good deeds, a lot of positive actions, to have the kind of the mental fuel to do that. And actually, in many monasteries, here in South India, you have 3 in the south. The monks, they study this subject alone of emptiness for over a decade, So I'll try my best to give you a small overview of what emptiness is, but I actually highly encourage you to study this subject more in depth with qualified masters like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And for those of us here in Delhi, we are also very fortunate. We have the cultural center of the Dalai Lama here in Lodi Road, that is called Tibet House. And we have a very qualified master there who's called the Geshe Dorji Damdul, who's teaching a lot on this subject. So to start, I would like to read a verse from Arya Deva, from his text called 400 Verses. It says, "Those with less merit will not even have a doubt in this dharma of ultimate reality. Should a doubt ever arise in someone, it will shatter samsara into pieces." So from beginningless time, from time immemorial, we are going through a lot of different experiences and a lot of suffering experiences, unpleasant experiences. The reason for that is that we take what appears to us for granted, We never really ask ourselves how things actually exist. It is a bit like being, in a dreaming state, being chased by a ghost. And in the dream, we think the ghost is real, right? But when we wake up, we immediately realize that the dream was just a product, of our imagination. In the same way, when we start to question our experiences, when we start, doubting that they exist the way they appear, then we start to, threaten our suffering existence. We start to threaten this samsara. When we wake up from the dream, we don't believe the content of the dream is real anymore, right? If we are chased by a ghost in a dream, when we wake up, we know the dream, the ghost was not real. We know that as we wake up. So in the same way, when we start understanding that things are not as solid, as they seem to be, then we start to suffer less. So then we have two more extracts. One is from Bhikkhuni Vajira's utterance in a fundamental vehicle that says, "The mind is demonic, which views a true self. You have a wrong view. These compositional aggregates are empty. There is no being in them. Just as one designates a cart, independence, upon a collection of parts, so we assert a conventional sentient being, independence, upon the aggregates." And then we have an extract from the precious garland of Arya Nagarjuna, which is called the Ratnavali in Sanskrit, which says, "If the person is not earth, not water, not fire, not air, not space, and not also consciousness, and not all of them, then where is the person out of those?" Just as a person is not truly existent because of being an aggregation of the 6 elements, so the 6 elements of, earth, water, fire, air, space, and consciousness. So each of these elements also is not truly existent as they are aggregations of their own constituents. So with these two extracts, we can, understand that when we start to question, when we start to ask ourselves, how do things exist? When we start to ask ourselves if things exist as solidly as they appear, for example, what we call the person, the I, the me, the self. When we look, when we analyze, we can see that it's actually, it's merely a name, like a label, a designation that is made on the basis of what we call the aggregates. The aggregates, to put it short, is like the body and mind. On the basis of this body and mind, here we put Nico or I or me, And when we look further, we can even see that each of these aggregates, the body or the mind, themselves, they are merely labeled independence on their own parts. If you take the body, you can see I have limbs, I have, different parts, the head and so forth. So on the basis of that, we label body. So each of these individual parts, the hand, the head, also, they are merely labeled on the basis of their own parts and so forth, infinitely. If we take the hand, you can see the label hand comes on the basis of, these 5 fingers, this palm. This is what we call hand. And we can go further and further infinitely. So if we analyze in this way, you know, we don't reach something that we can actually grasp onto. Indefinitely, we will find more parts of the parts of the parts. So actually, intellectually, it's a little bit difficult, you know, to understand, but we can make the experience with our own eyes. If we take, for example, the leaf of a plant, with our naked eye already, you know, we can see that it is made of different things. Like it has, you know, a blade, it has veins, a tip, a stem, and so on and so forth. It has different colors. But now, if we place this leaf in the microscope, like in an electronic microscope, then we can see even further. We can see that even each one of these small parts is made of a collection of, you know, smaller parts. In the microscope, we will start seeing the cells. And then if we, you know, with the microscope, if we zoom deeper, we'll start seeing the chromosomes, then the DNA, the electrons, the atoms. And in the future, maybe technology will, you know, go deeper and allow us to see that, you know, these atoms are made of protons, which are made of quark particles, and so on and so forth, you know, indefinitely. So when we look at that, what is there to grasp at, you know? Where is the leaf when we are looking at these chromosomes, for example? When we are looking through the microscope and we apprehend the cells or the chromosomes, you know, chromosomes, they look a bit like snakes. They are kind of a bit scary even. So when we look at these chromosomes that look like snakes, are we still apprehending a leaf at that time, you know? Because, you know, maybe the leaf gives us like a neutral feeling, you know, it's just a green leaf. But when we look at these chromosomes, maybe we feel a bit, you know, it's a bit repulsive, like snakes. So, you know, to get an idea what emptiness is, just, you know, looking at the different parts of the leaf, when we abide in that experience, for example, when we apprehend the chromosomes that look like snakes, and we ask ourselves, where is the leaf now? So already, you know, we can have a small glimpse. What do we mean by emptiness when we do that? So actually, I have a small video here that shows exactly what I've described, you know, zooming with a microscope, zooming into a leaf. So we can watch this quickly together. So now we are not yet in the microscope, we are just looking at the leaf. When we look very close, we can already see, you know, the different structures. A little bit closer, we start to see the structure of the cells. In the microscope, we start seeing the cells themselves, and their structure, how they are defined. So these are the chromosomes of the leaf that is in the microscope. So they look a little bit like snakes. You know, when we apprehend these, when we have a look at these chromosomes, what are we seeing? Are we still seeing a leaf? Do we have the same feeling as when we were watching the leaf? And even when we look at the DNA chain, where is the leaf then? That's also very interesting to observe, the space that there is between each of these atoms. It's said that even in our bodies, like, I don't know how many percent empty, but it's mostly made of space, right? So maybe in the future, microscopes will allow to actually go that deep. At the moment, it's just what the scientists are imagining. Arya Nagarjuna in the Precious Garland says, if the mirage were to be water, why is it not seen as water by those close by the mirage? So this verse, it's very helpful, when you are in the desert and you have this illusion, this hallucination that there is water in the distance, what we call a mirage. If you go closer, you don't find the water. Similarly, when you look at the leaf, when you go closer, you don't see the leaf anymore. You start seeing the different parts of the leaf, and then if you go deeper, you see the cells, atoms, and so forth. So, to make this a little bit more experiential, now I invite you to do a short meditation. We'll actually try to find the person, the I, the me that exists truly, objectively, inherently, solidly, this I, this me. Arya Nagarjuna says, if the person is not earth, not water, not fire, not air, not space, not also consciousness, and not all of them, where is the person out of those? So we can sit again in a meditation posture for a few minutes. And let us look, let us try and find this truly existent me, I. So for that, try to bring to mind, a moment in your life when somebody wrongly accused you, somebody blamed you for something you didn't do. Somebody said, you did such and such, but in actuality it was not you, or this person is just mistaken. Try to recall such a memory. Maybe even, you had this thought, but it wasn't me, I didn't do it, I didn't do anything. Try to remember such a situation. If you cannot remember such a situation, you can also simply remember a time where, somebody attacked you, with harsh words, somebody insulted you, somebody came at you. Because in such moments, this feeling of I is very solid, It's very gross how this I appears to our mind. So see how it appears, This gives you an idea how we naturally think. It exists solidly, inherently by its own power. So let us have a look. Where is this real person? Is it in the earth element? Look into your bones. Look into your skin, into your nails, into your hair. Is that the person, the earth element? Or is it in the fire element? The heat in your body. Is that the person? Or in the air element? The different winds in the body. Is that the person? Is it in the space element? Look at all the void between each body part. Even within the smallest atomic particles, it is mostly void, as we have seen in the video. Is that void the person, that space? Or the water element, the blood and so forth. Is that the person? Or is it the consciousness? Is the person the consciousness? If so, which one? We have many consciousnesses, but only one I, only one me. So which one is it? Is it the I consciousness? Is it the ear consciousness? Or could it be the mental consciousness? But which one then of your mental consciousnesses? Your virtuous thoughts? Your non-virtuous thoughts? Your afflictions? Is that the person? You can clearly see that it is not. Otherwise, for example, when you die, then your consciousness also would die. If the person was consciousness, how could we also say, this person is male, this person is female? So if it's not the earth element, if it's not the water element, not the fire element, not the air element, not the space element, and also not the consciousness, let us look at the collection of all of these 6 elements. In short, the body and mind. Is that the person, the collection of body and mind? If so, if this body and mind, these 6 elements, if that is the person, why do we even need to call it a person? That's a bit redundant then. And if the person was this collection of body and mind, then when it ceases, when the body and mind cease, the self would also cease. But we can see that it is not the case. So then, if we cannot find the person within the 6 elements, we looked in each of the 6 elements and in the collection of the 6 elements, then the only solution is that the self must be separate from these 6 elements, right? There is no other option. So if we look, try and see if you can find your I, your me, outside of your body and mind. Is the person just a label simply imputed on those elements? But if we don't have these elements, if we don't have this body and mind, then how do we have the label? Try to reach a conclusion that the person is nowhere to be found amongst the 6 elements, and is nowhere to be found separate from the 6 elements either. So try to abide, in that provision that anything which is empty of being one or different from its parts should be empty of intrinsic existence, of true existence, objective existence. If the person is not the elements, if the person is not outside the elements, then it means that the person is not truly objectively real. You feel cold? Maybe we can turn off this fan. No, it's a bit strong. Maybe you can just push the last button in the right. Yeah. So let us remember the precious words of Arya Nagarjuna. If the person is not earth, not water, not fire, not air, not space, not also consciousness and not all of them, where is the person out of those? And just as a person is not truly existent because of being an aggregation of the 6 elements, each element also is not truly existent as they are aggregation of their own constituents. Venerable Sharawa tells us, searching for reality throughout space, one finds not the periphery nor the center. All perceptions cease completely. Likewise, through a thorough search of mind and phenomena, one finds not even an atom of essence. Since the searching mind is not found, not seeing anything is seeing the reality. So some of you might, have read or heard the Heart Sutra, one of the, the Buddha taught the perfection of wisdom in present-day Bihar, on Vulture Speak in Rajgir. And the Heart Sutra, is this very condensed version of the perfection of wisdom. And in this sutra, Venerable Shariputra asks, how should one, meditate on the perfection of wisdom? How should one meditate on emptiness? And Arya Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, or the Bodhisattva of compassion, replies that, this experience of emptiness, this experience of not finding something solid, to grasp at, this experience of finding the final nature of reality, this lack of intrinsic existence, this lack of objective existence, the emptiness from the side of the object, which is a non-affirming negative phenomenon. So that means that when we observe that emptiness, that non-affirming negative phenomenon, nothing else actually comes to mind. So this emptiness, in the Heart Sutra, Arya Avalokiteshvara says to Shariputra, you need to meditate on it repeatedly until you achieve, omniscience, which is the perfection of wisdom. Like omniscience is the state you achieve when you achieve full awakening, when you become a Buddha. So at first, the experience of emptiness, after studied what it is, this experience is conceptual. So here you have the 5 paths, You enter the path, as I was saying at the beginning, when you have this uncontrived bodhicitta, this spontaneous mind that wishes to benefit other by becoming a Buddha. So at the beginning of the path, this experience of emptiness is conceptual. We don't directly realize emptiness. And so we enter the first gate, we were reciting this mantra, gate gate para samgate bodhiswaha, which represents actually the 5 paths. The first gate corresponds to the first path, which is the path of accumulation. So when one will realize emptiness conceptually, one will move to the second gate, the path of preparation. And through familiarization, this realization will not remain conceptual, it will become direct. One will directly see emptiness. And at the same moment, one will achieve paragati, one will see beyond and reach the path of seeing. And progressively, from the path of seeing onwards, one will eliminate the obscurations, starting, these veils that prevent us from achieving liberation and Buddhahood. So at the beginning, on the path of seeing, we'll start to eliminate the afflictive obscurations that we might have acquired intellectually in this life. And then by engaging in meditating on emptiness again and again, we will start also eliminating the innate afflictive obscurations. And at some point we'll reach Parasamgate, which is the path of meditation. And then again and again we'll enter into that meditation and eliminate all of these afflictive obscurations until even the last cognitive obscuration. And when that is done, when all the cognitive obscurations are abandoned, then we enter Bodhiswaha, which is the Buddhahood, the path of more learning, omniscience, the state in which all obscurations have been eliminated and all qualities have been, perfectly attained. So here, Arya Nagarjuna, in the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, the Mula Madhyamika Karika, tells us that which dependently originates is posited to be empty of independent existence. That being dependently designated, this is the middle way. Since there is no phenomenon that is not dependently originated, therefore there is no phenomenon that is not empty. And in the three principal aspects of the path, Lama Tsongkhapa, who was a Tibetan master, tells us, furthermore, appearance eliminates the extreme of existence, and emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by notions holding extreme views. Because we have these two extreme views of, true existence of, then we have the other extreme view, which is nihilism, thinking that nothing exists at all. The opposite of that is believing that everything exists, very solidly, like permanently, autonomously, inherently. So when we say that phenomena don't exist intrinsically, objectively, what we mean, is that they don't exist from their own side. It doesn't mean that they don't exist at all. What the masters are telling us here is that when we analyze phenomena, ultimately we don't find them, like we were doing with the microscope and the flower. The more we look at what is there objectively, the less we find the leaf. So we don't find, any substance to grasp. But when we analyze, in the other hand, when we analyze conventionally, we can clearly see that phenomena exist. But how do they exist? Here the masters are telling us they exist by dependence. They depend on their parts. They depend on causes and conditions. But also they depend on their, their mere imputation, on their mere label, their designation. So therefore, phenomena exist, but not from their own side, which means they don't exist ultimately, but they do exist conventionally in dependence on other factors. In fact, dependent arising proves emptiness, considering that phenomena exist by depending on other things, therefore they are empty of being independent, right? Actually, here we have the mantra of the essence of dependent origination, which says, Om ye dharma hetum prabhava hetum tesham tatagato hayavadat tesham chayo nirodha evam vadi mahashramana ye swaha, which means all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata, which is one of the names we give to the Buddha. The cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. So to conclude, because I've been talking for almost 1 hour now, I hope you will bring some questions. To conclude, from beginningless time until now, we have been, caught up in the illusion of solid existence, grasping at phenomena to be existing from their own side, truly, objectively, inherently, and ourselves as well. So due to that, we make various experiences and a lot of suffering, like terrible suffering experiences. So if we want to escape, that vicious dreamlike existence, the only solution is to, wake up from the dream. So to do so, Arya Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of Compassion, tells us that we need to repeatedly contemplate and directly realize that phenomena are from the beginning pure. They don't have the least intrinsic existence from their own side. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was often telling us that the way phenomena exist is so subtle. It's so subtle that it is as if they didn't exist. They do exist, but the way they exist is so subtle, it's almost as if they didn't exist. So let us make prayers so that we may soon, very soon, see and experience that ultimate reality and progressively purify all the veils, all the obscurations that cover our incredible potential. So by uncovering all these veils, all these obscurations, we'll be able to achieve omniscience, full awakening, the actual perfection of wisdom. So we can read those prayers together. First, we have the concluding prayer on the commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom of the middle way, which says, "Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Arya Manjushri and be able to uphold Dharma in general and the teachings on dependent origination in particular, even at the cost of my life." Arya Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom. You might have seen here at Tushita, we have here one painting, he's holding a sword in his right hand, which symbolizes, transcending illusory appearances. And in his other hand, in his left hand, he's holding the stem of a flower, I think a Utpala flower, on top of which is the whole perfection of wisdom in the form of a text. So by, studying this perfection of wisdom and meditating on emptiness, he's able to transcend these illusions, these illusory appearances, and see reality as it is. Afterwards, we also have a statue behind the screen. You can also have a look. Then we can read the second one. Due to the merits of reflecting on the meaning of the wisdom of emptiness, may virtues of the most tender, beautiful mind of bodhicitta and the fearless mind of the wisdom of emptiness down in us for the benefit of all dear mother sentient beings. May each and every mother sentient being quickly discover everything as dreamlike and thus be freed from the vicious and painful prison of one's own self-grasping mind. May lasting joy soon overflow in each and every mother sentient being. So if you have questions, now would be a good time to bring them. I hope I was making some sense. So on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourselves. Normally you have the possibility to do that. And here, if you have a question, please, ask. Yes, please. Can you say that again? So, yeah, sorry, you came a bit late, so you didn't see the presentation. But so, what's your name? Surpa. Chitwan. So she's asking, if by emptiness we mean that physical things are illusion right? So actually, it's not exactly what we are saying. Emptiness, means emptiness is short for emptiness of objective existence, emptiness of, true, independent, inherent existence, like an intrinsic existence. So we were, looking, for example, at the leaf of a tree. If you look at it, it's made of many parts. You can see even with your bare eye, you can see it's made of a stem and many different things, different colors and so forth. But then we watched a video that if we look deeper with an electric microscope, for example, then you can see also, that it's made of cells, which are, themselves made of chromosomes and so on and so forth until, you reach the atoms and so on and so on, and it's endless. So basically, when you try to look objectively, from the side of the object, where is the leaf? There is nothing solid to grasp at. So we are not really saying that things are illusion, and we are not only actually talking only about physical things. We are talking about all phenomena, everything that you can, think about. So we are not saying that they are an illusion. We are saying that they are kind of illusion-like. What Lama Zopa Rinpoche was telling us is that the way phenomena exist is so subtle. It's not that they don't exist, but it's subtle the way they exist.
Phenomena is basically science.
Sorry?
Science. Phenomena. What is the meaning of phenomena in this case?
Can you say again?
What is the meaning of phenomena in this case?
Phenomena means whatever exists.
Yeah, but it's the reason for existence.
Like objects of knowledge, basically, it's a phenomenon. Yes. Yeah. So phenomena, how they exist, depend on cause and effect or parts or, their mere imputation. So they exist conventionally, but when we look like from the side of the subject, from when we apprehend them, we apprehend something that exists. But when we go towards the object, when we try to investigate objectively, where it is, then we don't find anything. It's like there was this verse from Arya Nagarjuna that says, if the mirage, in a desert, when you're in desert, in the distance, you see some water. So Arya Nagarjuna, which was one of the Nalanda masters, this university in Bihar many centuries ago, he said, if the mirage were to be water, why not those close by the mirage see water, When you see the mirage in a distance, but when you get closer, you realize there's actually no water there. So what the Buddha is telling us is that objectively, phenomena don't exist. They exist subjectively. And because we don't see that, we don't apprehend phenomena as being empty of being objectively existent. We think they are objectively existent. Because of that, we have this, especially ourself, we apprehend our self as existing truly. And because of that, we kind of feel we are the center of the universe. No, we feel I am more important than others. This thought comes naturally, And because of that, all kinds of, mental perturbations come, afflictions like anger, jealousy, attachment, pride, and so on and so forth. And because of these afflictions, we engage in so many actions. Most of them are actually not virtues, maybe because of our attachment. We will engage in stealing or, saying harsh words when we are angry or something like that. So because of that, we accumulate a lot of negative karma. And all these karmas, at some point, they ripen. And because of these karmas, we are continuously taking rebirth again and again in what we call samsara. So the root of all what I've described is this self-grasping ignorance that apprehends phenomena as existing objectively. If we cut that root, the whole tree falls. So this is like the ultimate teaching of the Buddha, to realize this emptiness, puts an end to all the rest, all the suffering, all the afflictions, all the karmas, all of these collapses.
And what is the meaning of independent in this case? It means we are dependent on everything as a human being, not I and.
Yes, please.
I was looking at this. So if you see, I don't realize that it's like not a stool. if you look at it, it's made of like 4 parts, right?
Yes.
So everything is dependent. Our existence, our life is dependent on the fact that our organs are working. Everything is working. Like a car is made of engine and different parts. If even one of the parts starts, messing, it's get messed up. You need to replace it. Only then the car will move. So there have to be pauses for existence. And so, like you said, so if we say that I am like you said, like you Nico and Naman, so I am not independent of my parts. I am mere label. So phenomena, as we say, like I don't exist. What is Naman? Naman is, let's say, these fingers. This is also a finger. Let's say my finger gets cut somehow, is amputated. So then, do I remain myself or not? You would say that yeah. But then when I had a finger, what is the difference between that Naman? I was a baby once. What is the difference between that baby was named Naman, right? So mere label does not exist. Also, there's a philosophical argument on this called ship of thesis. It says the whole is greater than some of its parts. So there was a ship called Theseus. Okay. What happened is it was made of logs, simple logs. So all of its logs were changed, replaced by other logs. So can you say that it's the same Theseus, it's the same ship if all of its parts are changed? So the whole must be greater than its parts. So what we're talking about is empty. So the ship is actually empty. It was called something. Even if it's replaced, if every part of it is replaced, then it doesn't exist. It's empty. That's the argument.
Reason is the whole is made up of parts.
Yeah, basically, what you call yourself, it doesn't matter. It's a mere label.
It's a bigger sense. In the worldly sense, you'll say that human being is a part of a society.
Yeah, we are.
Like if you think in that way.
We're thinking of ourselves. In this argument, we're just thinking about ourselves. That you could be called what is an ancient concept. You could be called that. But are you just that? You're more than that, right?
Yeah.
But we were also exploring, earlier is that, this I, this me, this sense of self that we have is labeled independence on a basis, and the basis is the body and mind. But that's what we were saying in the very beginning. Even, so this I depends on these parts, the body and mind. But even these parts, they are merely labeled independence on their own constituents. So if we look at the body, for example, we can see all the limbs. So we can see this body is made like of 4 limbs, a head, and so on and so forth. But even each of these limbs, if we look at the hand, which is one of those, it's also made of these 5 fingers, this palm, and so on and so forth. So everything like infinitely, you cannot find something solid to grasp at.
Everything is interdependent.
Everything is interdependent. Yeah, everything is dependently arisen, the Buddha says. Yeah, dependently originated. You wanted to ask something?
I wanted to ask something actually about the interdependence part. So, I was just thinking. So, I would say, like Buddha said, Buddha chose the word nirvana when he spoke about like being awakened, and nirvana is just like it's like you have a lamp and then it fades. It's that process of like fading away, and that fading away happens into like an emptiness. And I guess like this empty space we are talking about, like for anything to exist, there has to be like a counter emptiness. Like if the stool is not surrounded by emptiness, the stool cannot exist. And so in a way, and the way we were seeing the leaf, I think if we go down deeper, it again goes into a state where it's endless. Like you can just endlessly keep going down. And if you go up, it's endless. You can like go on top of the earth, the universe, and there are like multiple universes. So it's stretching like way above and beyond, like up and way above and beyond, like down. So ultimately, it's all in coherence where we probably are nothing. It's just mere emptiness, and we are going to just dissolve into that.
Actually, if you the whole video, I just showed a part of the video. If you look at it on YouTube, I think it's called The Power of 10. It's a video made by the NASA company actually, and I only showed you the part that goes into the leaf, like just observing the micro. But actually, the video starts with the opposite, as you were saying. It starts from the leaf, but then it goes on to the tree, and then the garden in which the tree is, and then the neighborhood, then the town, and then the city, and then the country, and then the continent, and then it goes to the macro. And yeah, it's interesting what they observe in the macro universe is very similar to what they were observing in the the deepest level of the micro that they can observe. Technology allows to observe at this point. Yeah, it's very similar. So, but yeah, the Buddha says that everything is empty of objective existence. Nothing exists solidly, truly from its own side. Everything exists by dependence. It's merely labeled by the mind, basically. You have any other questions? I think I saw on the chat there was also a question. Could you please explain us how the state of Buddha is not the state of emptiness? Chaudhary, if you are still there, yes. Maybe you can unmute yourself and tell me, what do you mean by the state of emptiness? I'm not sure I understand your question correctly. K.R. Chaudhary. If you are there, you have a button, you can unmute your microphone and you can speak. Otherwise, if you don't want to speak, you can just clarify your question on the chat.
I think he means that how state of Buddha is different from realizing that emptiness about emptiness.
So the state of Buddhahood, the state of awakening, the state also called of omniscience, the state of a Buddha, is actually, you were talking also about nirvana. Nirvana is the state of individual liberation. That is, nirvana means the absence of the afflictive obscurations. All these afflictions I was talking about, like anger, jealousy, pride, attachment, and so on and so forth, which are all rooted in self-grasping ignorance. This ignorance as grasp at phenomena as being truly existent. So once we cut this self-grasping ignorance, all the afflictions and all the karmas are cut, so we achieve this nirvana. Buddhahood is nirvana in the sense that it is the absence of all these afflictive obscurations, but on top of that, a Buddha, a fully awakened being, has also completely abandoned what we call the cognitive obscurations. He has achieved a state of omniscience. So what is Buddhahood? It is the absence. It's also an absence. Emptiness is also an absence. Emptiness is the absence of objective existence. Buddhahood is the absence of obscurations, basically. So it is a state also of perfect knowledge, perfect power, perfect love and compassion,
Maybe emptiness is the nature of everything, the nature of phenomena. And then if one realizes that, then you become the Buddha.
After some time, right?
We have to denounce our ego.
Yes. Yeah. So
not denounce, but to realize. I think Carl Jung was asked once that, do you believe in God? So his answer was, I know God. So it's more like that. So if you know that the nature of things is empty, then you don't have to denounce anything. The ego dissolution happens at that point. Like Arya Nagarjuna said, that even if there is one doubt that this is a mirage, even if there is one doubt that ego doesn't exist, then it will lead you to the path of enlightenment. Then one day you will realize eventually that it's hoax, doesn't exist, ego doesn't exist. So you don't have to denounce it. Like you don't have to go forward and okay, I have denounced ego. It's like realizing, okay, there's no hope.
Yeah, when you start to, make this experience, when you start to question, how do I exist? How do things exist? Are they as solid as they appear to be? Then what the verse was saying is that when you have these thoughts, it shatters samsara into pieces, meaning if you don't believe in these solid appearances, then how can they actually really impact you, you know? If you are having an experience and you see that this experience like a dream, if you know that your dream is a dream, then you are not so emotional about it, no? Whatever happens in the dream, if you have a lucid dream. But yeah, it is not when we, you know, realize emptiness. Initially, it will be conceptual. We will not realize emptiness directly. So we won't reach Buddhahood at that time. We won't reach this nirvana or awakening at that time. And even, you know, when we realize emptiness directly for the first time, we become Arya beings. Like, we cannot, at that point, we cannot create karma that will propel us anymore, but still we haven't achieved a state of nirvana or awakening yet. It takes a really, really long time, a lot of meditation sessions on emptiness to see this emptiness again and again. Slowly, you know, it will remove these obscurations, these afflictions. Because the thing is that we have been, you know, since time immemorial, we have been apprehending phenomena as existing truly. So it takes time, you know, to familiarize ourselves with the opposite of that, with this wisdom of emptiness. And we have been engaging, you know, our mind has been disturbed with these afflictions like attachment, anger, and so forth since beginningless time. So it takes time to uproot that as well. So that's why we need to meditate on emptiness again and again and again and again. And slowly, slowly, gradually, all the afflictions subside, and later on all the cognitive obscurations also are eliminated. And then we achieve the state of a Buddha. In the sutras, it says that, you know, from the moment we generate uncontrived bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is this mind that wishes to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So when this mind becomes our main mind, you know, that is behind all the actions that we engage in, behind all our thoughts. So from the moment we have this mind, it says that it takes 3 great countless eons to reach Buddhahood. So the moment we achieve this bodhicitta, we enter the path of accumulation. Then we realize emptiness indirectly, conceptually, we'll reach the path of preparation. And already, I think 1 great countless eon has passed. Then we see emptiness directly. We achieve the path of seeing, you know, we see beyond. Then until the path of meditation, again, 1 great countless eon. And then to abandon all the afflictive and cognitive obscurations, it only starts from this path of seeing. Again, 1 great countless eons to achieve the path of Lama learning to become a Buddha. So it's really, really long time. We need to meditate on emptiness again and again and again. For many bodhisattvas, actually, this thought, you know, a bodhisattva is that person who has this bodhicitta, like spontaneously and contrived. This thought of 3 great countless eons is unbearable, you know. Just thinking, sentient beings are suffering and they are in such a state, you know, when you look at countries at war, when you look at, you know, animals that we use for food or whatever, you can see intense suffering. And when this becomes unbearable to think they have to wait 3 great countless eons, actually there is a shortcut that exists that is called the Vajrayana, the tantric vehicle. But for that, we need a strong basis, you know, in the sutric teachings. We need a deep understanding on what is renunciation, what is bodhicitta, and what is emptiness. Otherwise, the whole tantric path makes absolutely no sense, you know. So that's why it's actually called the secret path, you know, the secret Tantra yoga. I think on the chat there was one more question. As thinking animals, we are so caught up with words, so we may understand, but intellectually. Any tips on how we can go beyond words to the actual experience? Yes, that is a tough question, but I think, you know, with this meditation, for example, that we did, you know, that is based on the 4 essentials, you know, the essentials of, identifying the, object of negation, this solidly real I, the essential of understanding, the emptiness of the object being one with its part, the essential of understanding the emptiness of the object being different from its part, and the fourth, which is understanding the, the provision that anything which is empty of being one or different from its parts entails the emptiness of objective existence of the object. That's a lot of words. It's a little bit difficult, but that's the meditation that we did, we were looking at the I, the self, in the body and mind. We looked individually, in the different parts of the body, the different minds. We didn't find the I, the truly existent, solidly real I. So then we looked at this collection, the collection of both the body and mind. Also, we didn't find the I, so we started looking outside. So we didn't find the I either inside or outside of these parts. So if it's not outside and it's not inside, then necessarily it doesn't exist inherently. So actually this experience is beyond words, Minoti. It's in the monasteries, when we recite the Heart Sutra, first we recite a verse of praise to the perfection of wisdom. I don't know if I can remember the exact words right now, but basically it says that the perfection of wisdom is beyond words. It is not something you can actually describe. And when you actually make the experience yourself, so if you use that meditation on the four essentials, on the basis of these 6 elements, or even when when you're just looking at the leaf and you look at the chromosomes and you ask yourselves, when you look at the leaf, you have a kind of neutral feeling in your mind. But when you look with the microscope and you see the chromosomes, the feeling that you have is quite different from the neutral feeling you had with the leaf. When you see the chromosomes, you might have some aversion or, or fear or whatever, because they look like snakes. So when you ask yourself at that point, where is the leaf? And not finding the leaf, then when you abide in that experience of not finding, that is beyond word, and you don't need words at that point. You just stay in that experience of not finding. In the same way, when you look for yourself in the 6 elements, in each of the elements you don't find. In the collection of the elements you don't find. Outside of the elements you don't find. So you reach a state where you are not finding. And the meditation is actually about abiding in that experience of not finding. There was this verse, maybe I can share my screen again. Sorry, I'm having a few issues with all my windows. That should be fine. So there was one verse that says, this one, Venerable Shawara, what he says. I hope you can see on Zoom, I think, yes. Searching for reality throughout space. So this could be also with the experience of the leaf, or searching for the self within the elements, searching for reality throughout space, like searching everywhere at this solid existence, this inherent existent. One finds not the periphery nor the center. When we abide in that experience of not finding, all perceptions cease completely, because emptiness is a non-affirming negative phenomenon. When we make the experience of emptiness, nothing appears, basically. Empty, like a total emptiness appears. Likewise, through a thorough search of mind and phenomena, one finds not even an atom of essence. Since the searching mind is not found, not seeing anything is seeing the reality. I think this verse goes even deeper. Maybe it touches a bit on Mahamudra because it's talking about the searching mind. So we have a mind that searches for solid existence. That mind doesn't find any solid existence. Then we meditate on the emptiness of that mind. The emptiness of objective existence of that mind that doesn't find any objective existence in the phenomena that it's contemplating. So when we are in that experience, all perception cease completely, here he's saying, and not seeing anything is seeing the reality. So this is what purifies, is abiding in that experience, abiding in that emptiness. I'm not sure I answered your question, Minotiji, but feel free to ask more qualified teachers like Geshe Lama. Okay, I think we are coming towards the time. It's 7:58. If there is one last question, we can take it. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up here. We'll have some verses to dedicate the merits that we have accumulated by contemplating the teachings of the Buddha. So we can read this together. Due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me and all the merits of the 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existing from its own side by myself alone, who is also completely empty of existing from my own side. May the supreme bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase forevermore. Due to all the merits of the 3 times collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, and the numberless sentient beings, may all wars, sickness, famine, and economic problems in the world, and all dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately, and may perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time, and may the sentient beings in this world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. We can also dedicate the merits so that our teachers have long and healthy lives, and in particular, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So we can read together the long life prayer that we have here in English. So that's the last paragraph here on this slide. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. We can also dedicate whatever merits we have accumulated so that we might very soon find the unmistaken reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who is the founder of Tushita and founder of the Foundation of the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, the FPMT. Tushita is one of the 160 centers and projects around the world of the FPMT. So our spiritual director, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, took the aspect of passing away recently in April. So, in the Tibetan tradition, there is, in the Tibetan culture, there is this tradition of looking for the reincarnation of such masters so that they may continue, to guide their students. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche had thousands of students around the world, and also to lead the organization, the FPMT, with 160 centers and projects around the world. So may we very soon find his reincarnation. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good evening, a good night. Bye-bye, everyone online.